Hello and welcome to week 2 of Social Work 636, Organization and Program Development, Spring 2, 2018, Section 1. We are going to go over what's required for week 2 and talk a little bit about the readings for this week and the assignments. So, as always, you see the learning resources and clicking on objectives, readings, and media. The objectives for this week are to describe alternate sources of funding for social services, to describe sources of grant funding, to describe the concept of unmet need and methods to assess need, and then writing a statement of need. There are a lot of required readings this week. I would suggest reading the Kettner, Maroney, and Martin readings first because I think they give context to the Brody and Nair readings on funding. 3 media resources or Society for Nonprofits, a fundraising guide, the Foundation Center, and federal grants. So those are 3 web sources that you can refer to, especially when we talk further about writing a proposal. And it's a little slow today. So after reviewing the objectives and looking at the media, week 2 discussion is around identifying unmet needs. For this discussion, you have already been paired with a new partner for the week. I sent those assignments out via email, and there's also an announcement that gives the whole list of who's partnered with whom for this week. So identifying unmet needs requires you to do the following. And hopefully you'll be able to see this on your computer screen. So you're going to reflect on a social work organization, and hopefully you will just use the organization that you started with for week 1. You're going to focus on needs. This is a discussion about not what you think is a need, not what your organization necessarily thinks is a need, but what actually is a need to benefit the clients that we're called to serve. So you're going to choose your organization. You're going to talk about the size, age, location, nonprofit or for-profit, and in complete sentences, answer the following. What's the culture of your organization? Culture takes into account how does it make you feel? What's the organizational climate that contributes to these feelings? What do you notice about how staff treat one another and clients? Are they collegial, hostile, welcoming, suspicious? And then who are the organization's consumers? And what are their primary needs to the best of your knowledge? How well does the agency meet those needs and what remains unmet? So, given the evidence you have uncovered, please identify a minimum of 3 unmet needs faced by the organization's clients and provide a 1 to 2 sentence description of each of those needs. So, you're going to read your partner's post, and then you're going to respond to what they have posted. And here is the parameters for your response. Your initial post is due on Thursday, and your follow-up posts are due between Friday and Sunday. Please let me know if your partner has not posted by Thursday. I will try to keep track of that myself and give you alternatives if your partner has not posted. In addition, for this week, you have a written assignment. And that written assignment is on the assessment of organizational capacity, and it is due on Sunday. So let's look at what's required. If you go to your Getting Started section, you will see the description of this assignment. And again, it's due Sunday, week 2. This is closely connected to your final proposal. If you have not looked ahead, you are going to be required to write a grant proposal for this class. So, what organization should I choose? It's great if you can continue to build on the same organization that you started with in week 1. What sources should you use? Much of the descriptive information you gather will also be included in that final proposal. What format should I use? Just like any paper, you use headings. Your instructions say do not include an introduction or conclusion. You use complete sentences. Again, this is a paper. So it's the description of the organization, the existing structure and services, its relationship to the environment, and then an analysis of functioning and adaptation for the organization, and the rubric is here. If you have any questions about the assignment, please email me as soon as possible. So for me, I did the readings and in my logic organized everything as follows. And again, I would encourage you, please, to read as much of the readings as you can. They are crucial in both your paper around organizational analysis, but also in your final proposal. So I would start thinking about what's the problem and the needs that need to be addressed. One of the ways we address unmet needs in organizations is by writing a proposal to seek funding to address those needs. How do you know that what you've identified as a need or a problem is really something that is going to be beneficial to clients? Not what you think, but what is in actuality a need. Sometimes we do needs assessment, and in your proposal, needs assessments are always critical. We can do this by compiling demographic data. We can talk to constituent groups through the use of focus groups. We can do surveys, which is a more expensive way to gather data. And in these times, we can also utilize social media. There are online surveys like SurveyMonkey and other things that we can use to put together whether what we see as a need is actually a need that will benefit our clients. Then we develop goals, which are broad-based. They are what we aspire to. And out of those goals will come those measurable objectives. And we often use an acronym to talk about how we write objectives, and that is we write SMART objectives. They are specific, they are measurable, they're attainable, they're realistic, and they're time phased. In writing proposals, next we then develop a logic model. Logically, how should things progress in order for us to be able to analyze from input to impact how we will reach our objectives of meeting these unmet needs? So we look at inputs, we look at process, outputs, outcomes, and ultimately the impact. And all of the proposals we write, we will need to write how we evaluate what we have put together as the proposal to meet those unmet needs that we talked about initially. But in all of our organization, evaluation is key. So if we have an existing program, we have to evaluate whether we're obtaining the goals and objectives that we are outlined. And this is particularly important in terms of evidence-based practice, and it's important in terms of our age of accountability. So we not only evaluate programs for their effectiveness, which is how well we do what we do, but how efficiently we do what we do, which includes use of resources. And then for me, that's where the discussion of budgeting comes into play, which is one of our groups of readings. Social workers as managers must understand the budgeting process. We have to know how dollars and cents work in organizations. We may be called upon to be the people to manage those budgets. So we have to understand operating expenses, what it takes to run an organization, program expenses, it takes to run a program, personnel costs, which are always your biggest part of any budget, and then fundraising expenses, because to raise money costs money. We have to sit down and think about where is our income coming from. If we're a 100% grant-funded organization, then when grants go away, there is a problem with continuing to run a program. So how much is going to be donor solicitation? How many fundraising events are we going to have? Do we have plan giving, which means that people think about leaving money to our organization? So organizational budgets get constructed out of lots of sources for money. One thing in organizations that is also important is strategically looking at your organization from time to time. Strategic plans, there are several rules of thumb. They could be 3 to 5 years. There are other discussions about having a strategic plan that is just one year out, 1 to 3 years, so that you're looking at both short-term and long-term objectives. Strategic plans are supposed to be working documents, not put on a shelf somewhere. And we need to periodically be in our organizations, be examining our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and our threats. And this is often called a SWOT analysis. In that, we are also looking at new goals and objectives, and then how we're going to fund these new programs and services that are addressing needs that have been discovered since we began our organizations, because clients' needs change over time, and our organizations therefore must change over time. So that's an overview of week 2. If you have any questions, please email me as quickly as possible, and we will try to get those questions answered. I look forward to reading your posts and reading your papers for week 2.